This song is one of my favorite songs. It's also a song that my dad really enjoyed, but he shared it with me in his language, Urdu. And it really, even though I don't understand the language 100%, the music and everything was just so gorgeous. It really touched my soul. Anyways, I'm not going to play that part for you, but I do want to talk about this song. And so here I gave you a little background, a little bit on the song, but um, the whole theme of the chapter, we'll call it, is God's care for his people. He loves us so much, and he cares for us. Oh, you can't see the song now, but you know, so I'm going to read it again. So I will lift up my eyes to the hills. So when you lift up your eyes to the hills and you see it from the perspective of, you know how the mountains are, they're just so majestic, they're so strong, so awe-inspiring. I love it because no matter where you go, where you see the mountains, whether they're in the Rockies in the west or the mountains in the north up in on Baffin Island, or the mountains that are on the Rock, Newfoundland. There are mountains everywhere in the Laurentians, everywhere. And so wherever you are, there's always a different feel. I don't know if you've ever noticed where you've been. There's always a different feel to the mountains. But anyways, in this song, David is looking up at the hills and he says, so where does my help come from? Does it come from the mountains and their strength? Is that where I'm to get my help? But he's looking up. He's looking up. And when you're looking up, you're acknowledging something greater than you are. You're noticing things. You notice when you look up, you notice different things. And your focus can be on that majesty that belongs to God. It always does that for me. When I went to India, it was the same sort of thing. It was the mountains, they're just so magnificent. God, you can look at all the geology of it and whatnot, but when you look at the creation of God and his handiwork, you begin to acknowledge him even more. But David says, but my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. See, he's looking up, but he's realizing that it was God who made it all. And his own help will only come from God. And he reminds himself by saying, you will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. So not only is God going to keep his watchful gaze over him, but he is not going to slumber. That means even if he doesn't sleep, he's not even going to take a little, quick wink of a sleep. He's just not going to even close his eyes from it. He's not going to slumber. He's not going to sleep. His eye will continually be upon me, is what David is thinking. He won't let my foot slip. The Lord is my keeper. The Lord is, it says your keeper, but the Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. When you feel like you're burnt up. When you feel like, who's watching over me? Who cares for me? Who cares? God cares. God cares because he is our keeper. He is the shade on our right hand. He shades us. So the next line says, the sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. So nothing, even the heat, so we're talking basically the heat of the day, but it isn't just the heat of the day. It's the heat of the struggles. It's the heat of the desperation. It's the heat of the pain and the grieving. It's the heat that hits us. But God's shadow, his protective hand, keeps the brunt of it. So even when you're feeling like no one cares, even if you're feeling like you're doing this alone, even if you feel like it's just too hot, it's too hot to bear, remember that God is actually shielding you from the worst. It could be worse, but God's hand, his protection, his shade is over us. And he is watching over us. He knows what we can take. And he knows where we need help. And so he shades us. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep you in your going and your coming from this time forth and forever. So he knows the evils that are around us. He knows the evil that even is within, our thoughts and all the things that take us away from the protective arms of the Lord. He knows all that, but he will keep your light. If we allow him, if we recognize that God is for us, we will recognize that his protection is over us, even to protect our souls from the evil that surrounds us in so many different ways. Thought, word, deeds, all of those kinds of things. But God's going to keep our lives. Why? Because he loves us. Why? Because we are his. We are his. We belong to him. And when we acknowledge that, and we recognize that God's hand is on us, and regardless of anything else that's going on in the world, then we can be reassured that God cares for us. So he's going to be in our coming and in our going. That means, when we wake up to when we go to bed, during the night, he's going to be with us. And we just need to continue to keep our eyes focused above. Lift your eyes up to the Lord. John 4:35 also says, lift your eyes and look. Looking doesn't simply, mean looking, but opening yourself up to the revelation of who God truly is and his love for you, his majesty, his strength, his faithfulness. So we're not to rely on the strength of the mountains or certain people in our lives. We're not to rely on anything else, but our confidence has to be in the Lord. When we look up, we see that all things are possible. The trees survive, even when there are volcanoes and eruptions. There is still life, even in the middle of nothing, dry, arid soil, or concrete, or the lava. Little flowers make their way up somehow. How is that? But with the grace of God, God somehow allows these tiny little fragile flowers to creep through the hardness of the rock. We need to kind of be like that. Allow God's strength to help us to push up against the concrete. So this psalm really teaches us to comfort ourselves in God's ability to do anything and everything. Through the difficulties, through the dangers and the struggles, though they may arise, God, in his wisdom and his power, is going to provide the safety that we need. And we need to place ourselves under his hands. And as we look up, to know that it's like his canopy over us. That will save our lives, that will keep our lives, that will help us to live our lives, because that's what the song says. So he is watchful, he is always awake, he is watchful, he is our keeper, he never gets weary, he doesn't fall asleep. And under his shade, we can rest. and we can have refreshment. It reminds us that he will take care of his people and will not let them flounder, will not let them fall. You shall not be hurt, neither by open assaults, nor by the secret attempts of your enemies. Doesn't matter how that enemy, how that evil comes against you. The Lord is going to prevent you from being hurt by the evil. And it's going to remove the evil from your sight, from the outside as well as the inside. That means there's a peace and a calm that comes, because sometimes we work ourselves up, and that's just the enemy taking a hold. We need to let the peace of God come and rest and give us that life that God has offered. He gives us life. He desires for us to have life, and he will keep us in life. He will be with us in our coming and our going. He's our preserver. He's our comforter. And he will abide with us forever. We are never alone. So let's remember to look up, look to the Lord, find all the help that we need. His strength, his protection, his wisdom, and his eternal care for each one of us for every single day of our lives. So when you listen to this song or read it again, remember, God cares for you. His hand is on you, and he will not let you fall. He will not allow the enemy to overtake you. He is constantly watching over you. He loves you. Amen.